Hi, I'm Beth. Welcome to today's yoga practice. This yoga class is BYOB yoga. So BYOB stands here for Build Your Own Bones. So it's going to be a yoga practice, mostly standing, really designed to help you maintain bone strength. So this is great for people who want to prevent osteoporosis, or like me, might have been diagnosed with a pre-osteoporosis condition called osteopenia. I'll talk more about that. A doctor who has developed this method, Dr. Loren Fishman, has proven that yoga can help rebuild bones for osteoporosis. Now, of course, if you have osteoporosis, please check with your doctor. Don't rely on this. This practice is more designed for the prevention stage. What I've done is I've taken some poses that Dr. Fishman presented in a book with Ellen Saltonstall. The book is Yoga for Osteoporosis. The method usually is a series of 12 poses, and I've distilled that down to 6 poses that we're going to practice in various ways with some variations today. We'll start with a chair pose with the chair. So we'll be using the chair throughout. Make sure you have a chair that's nice and sturdy with a high back. And we'll start with the chair right in front of you. So find a stable position for your feet about hip width apart, and chair pose, you're going to start hinging from the hip crease. That's right where the top of your femurs or your legs meet your pelvic girdle. Start to have a little hinge there, send your butt back and rest your hands on the chair. Now we are going to be holding each of these poses or each variation for about 30 seconds. And these lengths of these holds help to really engage the muscles, the strength that we want to build in the bone. So I won't go into the science details. I don't understand it all myself, but holding for a little longer allows time for that muscle, all the important things the muscles need to build. If you see me glancing over that way, that's because I'm looking at my clock to try to time things for 30 seconds. All right, you can stand up out of that. We'll continue with a few other variations of chair pose, and we'll do this in other poses too. Each time you can stick with the first variation if that worked for you. So I'm actually going to start to bend down the same way with my hands resting on the chair back. The difference this time is I'm going to open my hands into a wide T with my palms front. So if you feel at all unsteady in this version, you don't feel stable, certainly return the hands to the chair back, or you can open them up wide. When you open your arms, really energetically stretch them apart from each other. A little extra effort in the upper body as we hold this pose. And then you can push into your feet and stand up. And one more version of chair pose, and you can certainly adjust your feet as needed. The goal is to have all 10 toes going forward and your knees moving out in the middle part of your toes. So again, you might want to start by resting your hands on the chair back. And then in this last version, we're going to take the arms up to more of a V shape. Again, stretching the arms out, reaching the fingertips energetically away. Although we're working on bone strength in this practice, this is also a great pose for muscular strength. I am sure that you feel the quad muscles at the top of your legs engaged as you hold this third chair pose, and I promise this is the last one. We'll hold this for just a little bit longer, and of course you can come out of the poses sooner. Even holding for 10 seconds will give you some benefits. And then press into your feet. And stand up and come out of this pose. So our next pose will be a balanced posture, tree pose. For that, you'll take the chair to one side, and I do recommend having the chair right on your mat. That will prevent slipping at all. For tree pose, we're going to start the same way, toes pointed forward to start. And then you'll take one knee and turn it out to the side. So notice I'm widening across the front of my hip points, my pelvis. I'm opening in the hip joint here. So you can stay with chair pose with the tips of your toes on the ground and your heel just above your ankle. This is plenty of balance challenge, even holding the chair. If this feels okay, you might choose to slide your bottom foot up to the outside of your calf or the inside of your calf, depending on how you look at it. I'm just going to move my chair slightly away. Or you might have room to slide it further up your leg above the knee. We don't want to press on the joint. And you can hold it here or not. Be aware of what pants you're wearing. That might make this a little more difficult. If you're, whatever place you're in, I'm going to do a little hold here because my pants are slipping. Press your foot into your thigh into your foot. Rest your hand lightly on the chair for support. And we'll hold this for another few seconds. This is where your practice tells you should have worn different clothing for your yoga. You can set that down, and we'll switch to the chair to the other side. So it's not always just a matter of strength and flexibility of whether we can or can't do a pose. Sometimes it's just a matter of what we're wearing. Press your support foot into the ground. Turn out your other knee, but you're really turning out from the hip. And then once you feel secure, rest your hand, and you can adjust like I did to be closer or further away from the chair, wherever it's comfortable for you to lightly lean into the chair. Place your heel over your ankle to start. See how you feel here. Maybe this is plenty of a balance challenge for you today. Tomorrow might be different. The goal is to be upright on this side of the body, long in the sides, and to weight bear more on one side of the body than the other, which we're doing whether we're up or here. And I think I'll stay here on this side because, as we know, my pants were not cooperating. And again, we're about 30 seconds on each side. I'm roughly timing, not timing exactly. Certainly holding a little more as a bonus, holding a little less is not going to hurt anything. You can, of course, play with taking your hand away from the chair. The thing about osteoporosis is you are at higher risk for fractures, and most of that risk comes from falls. So the more that you can be balanced and confident in your balance, the less chance you have of falling. All right, then we'll step down on this side. Next pose is another standing pose, triangle pose. And for this, I'm going to flip my chair around so I have access to the seat of the chair. And then I'm going to be mirroring you. So you step your left foot so that it's closer to the chair, toward the chair, right foot further away from you with the toes pointed in a little bit. So we're in this wide stance, and my front heel about lines up with my back heel, maybe the middle of my back foot. Now the stance is really wide. Some people tend to go here. If that feels comfortable and right to you, that's fine. But we want about the width of your leg in between your legs. So my legs are not super long, but they're a little bit longer than that. So I'll give it about legs width. And then we're going to be leaning to the side or side bending right from the side hip crease. And I like to get my fingertips right in there. So pushing into that crease to remind myself to bend. And as I bend, keeping the sides of my body long, so not collapsing into the leading side, keeping the sides of my body long. This back hip is going to kick out and away, and then I'm looking for the chair, and I might have to draw it a little closer in to rest my bottom hand lightly, not supporting all my body weight, but lightly on the chair. Top arm can reach up in opposition, so my arms open in a T, or maybe stay right here. I think I'll keep it right here on this side. So the key here is pressing into both feet, trying to distribute weight into both feet, having width across the front body and the back body. There's almost a little bit of a twist here as the front body or the chest curves just a teeny bit toward the ceiling. I'm not cueing your breath too much today. Just breathe as naturally and as comfortably as possible in each pose. Every once in a while, checking in with the breath to make sure that you are taking nice, natural breaths, full as possible. And then you'll push into both feet, but especially using the energy of pushing into your back foot, push yourself up to stand. And we'll just drag the chair around to the other side. So you might notice where I wound up with was my foot slightly under the chair. And that was the correct place for me, or the comfortable place for me to get my hand under my shoulder. And then I'll start stepping back the back foot, scooching them apart until they feel a little bit wide, but still strong and supportive. So I can keep pushing into the outer edge of the back foot. My front foot is pressing into the ground. And then we start to get a little sassy. We kick that back hip back. Start to hinge from the front hip crease, leaning over, remembering to keep both sides long, I still maybe need the chair a little bit closer, leaning so my hand is maybe not all the way under my shoulder, maybe a little bit of a diagonal, but it's at a comfortable support place. And you can choose whatever you want with the top arm if you prefer to reach up. If you are reaching up, make sure that hand stays right over your shoulder. So it's not here, it's not flipping off back here or going back like that. That's going to strain your shoulder joint. So right here, naturally reaching out from the shoulder or maybe down at your hip. Even kind of a little back pocket action works really well here. The arms don't matter so much. We're really focusing on the weight into the feet and the lower body. My osteopenia is a little bit, this is my right hip right here, a little bit my right hip. So as we do this, we're really tugging at the bones there and helping to build bone mass. All right, press into your feet, especially your back foot, as you start to lift your body back up. Really nice. I'm going to keep the chair right here, but I will flip it around again so that the back is toward me. And we'll do a couple of versions of downward facing dog with the chair. So you might know downward facing dog as a pose on the floor where we make a little kind of mountain shape or upside down V shape with the body. We won't be completely in a V when we're using the back of the chair. You'll see a little bit different in the next version. What these versions all have in common is we're going to be hinging right from the hip crease. I'll move this out just a little bit. So you'll want to step away from your chair, probably a little bit further than arm's distance. Find that parallel distance to your feet, same as we did in chair pose, and about the width apart of your hip bones, those little front points of your hips, or your sits bones on the back, however you want to think of it. You can use your fingertips again to encourage that bending right from that hip crease. Send your bottom back, send your tailbone back. Begin to slowly come forward. Nice little softening in your knees can be really helpful with this. And then reach up for the back of the chair, and I think I need to even go a little further back to start sending my bottom back and allowing my ears to come between my biceps or toward that direction. So I'm not letting myself collapse in the front. I'm staying long and engaged. And now I can't see my clock, so I'll just have to estimate the 30 seconds here. You can feel your weight supported by your feet, some stretch in the hamstrings. Again, we are getting stretch, we are getting muscle strength here, even though we're working on the bones. A few more breaths. And then when you're ready to come out, you can bend your knees even more. Bring your hands to the tops of your thighs. Push into your feet to come up. We'll flip the chair around for the second version of downward dog. Now, when you're timing your poses for 30 seconds, what I would recommend is you time your breaths. So pay attention to how many breaths you take in a 30-second interval, and then you have an easy way to time your poses without looking at the clock every time. So if that's 5 breaths for you, you know that you stay for 5 breaths and then you come out of the pose. So about the same distance away from the chair, we may have to adjust. Find the parallel spot for your feet. Encourage the hips to go back as you start to hinge forward, a little bend of the knees. And you can adjust. You see, I'm adjusting. It's natural to adjust and find what feels comfortable for you today. And then we'll reach the hands to the chair seat, looking for that same extension of the back. So lengthen the back. And you can keep the knees bent, or if it feels comfortable, you can allow the legs to move towards straight, pushing the backs of the legs or the hamstrings away from you. Maybe you can get a little more slide forward in the arms. Taking your breaths, if you are timing your poses according to breath, you can do that. And then when you're ready to come up, slide your hands back toward the edge of the chair so that your weight is solidly in your feet once again. reaching for the tops of your thighs, pushing to your feet, standing all the way upright. All right, we have, I think, one more pose that we're going to practice with the chair standing, and then we'll finish with a simple seated pose. So for this pose, this is going to be a version of Sage 3 twist. You'll want to have your chair a little bit closer to you, and if your balance is not feeling very steady or secure today, slide everything closer to the wall, and then you can have the wall as an extra backup for your balance. We'll be placing one foot on the chair. So I'm feeling okay with my balance. I'm just going to lift and place the sole of my foot on the chair. I'm going to keep the body upright here. You can place your hands on the top of your thigh to help with balance. Again, if you're near the wall, that's another option. And then starting from the belly button, but really with most of the motion coming through my rib cage, I'm going to start to take this into a twist, twisting in the same direction as my bent leg. And I'm just going to rest my hands to wherever I land in my twist and hold here. So I like this pose partially just because I like twists, but I like that there's a lot going on in this pose, that we're getting a standing pose. So standing poses always help with strength, both muscular strength and bone strength. We're getting some balance work because we're on one leg, and then we're getting a twist, and twists just feel really good in my body. And then when you're ready, you can use the back of the chair or the wall to help your balance as you step down. And we'll take that to the second side. So same thing, stepping the foot on the chair, finding a good place where the standing leg is right under the hip. It feels really strong and supported. Your whole torso is upright. And then starting to spin. This time I'll be moving away from you, so toward my bent leg, toward the wall. And once you reach your twisting place, you can rest your hands to aid in the twist. If you were by a wall, you could have both hands on the wall like this. When you're breathing in a twist, you might notice that as you breathe in, your breath lifts your whole body a little bit longer. And as you exhale, perhaps there's a little bit more room to spin in your twist. So one more breath here. And then we'll spin back around, come down. We're going to do one more version of that pose. This time, though, I'll just take my chair. You can stay right where you are. I'm going to take my chair to face you, so just to see it a little bit differently. So whatever leg you started on, take that leg back up, the foot back up to the chair. Now remember, you always have the option of continuing with the first version if that felt like a right version for you. The second version, we're going to start with that hinge right from the hip joint, reach the opposite hand from bent leg to the back of the chair, and then as we twist, we're going to open the arms apart from each other. So the arms come, you might think of this as kind of a star shape, and they don't have to be, or in a T, they don't have to be apart from each other. If that's not comfortable, the top arm or the outstretched arm can also be on the hip as you turn in that direction. So options customize poses to you. It doesn't have to be the other way around. Your practice is your own. Don't hesitate to customize however feels better for your body. We have it just a little bit longer on this side. What feels good in your body will also change from day to day. One more breath here. And then I'll unwind first, and then I'll take my body back upright, foot off the chair, switch to the other side. Foot on the chair, finding stability here before I do anything else. Hinging forward, reaching for the chair, keeping my opposite hand to the bent knee on the chair, and then starting to spin away in the other direction, using my arm on the same side as bent knee to adjust however feels right. It might rest on the outside of my thigh, might come and slide up to the hip, or maybe opens apart if this is an open day for you. And you'll notice I got more wobbly as I reach my arm away. Of course, as you move your limbs away from your body, that's going to feel more unsteady. One last breath here. Revolve back around. And then help yourself back up. All right, last pose. And our last pose we're actually going to do seated on the chair. So I'll turn my chair around toward you, the back of my mat. Have a seat. When you do poses seated on the chair, you do want to scooch to the edge of the chair so that you have more maneuverability, and also that your back stays upright. When we have the chair completely supporting us, then we kind of tend to tuck ourselves under, but when we're right on the edge, we tend to have the ability to sit up more tall, and even to slightly have a little forward tilt of our pelvis, which helps upright the spine. So that's what we're going for here. And then actually I'm going to slide my chair just a little further back so that you can see my whole leg. We're going to slide one leg out straight. You can gently point your toes to the ceiling. And the other leg is going to open up, it's going to be bent and open up so that you're leaning on the outside of your foot with a bent knee, a little bit similar to what we did standing in tree pose balance, except that foot is just resting on the ground, not on our opposite leg. And then you can stay upright, or one more time, hinge forward. See, we hinge right from that same place a lot in yoga. Here, if you choose to hinge forward, it's really important to keep your backs hinging like a door or a book, not to curve around it, which is definitely not good if you have osteoporosis, but even pre-osteopenia, if you have that in your spine, rounding the spine can be not the best thing to do for your spine. Always check with your doctor about that. This is just a little bit of a lean, a hinge at the hip, and that's why we emphasize the idea of the hinge. It's not around, there's the joint here, your hip, and you're hinging on it with a long back. Just a little longer on this side. Here you get a little bit of bonus stretch in the back of your hamstring. Maybe also on the side of your hip on your bent knee. And then upright yourself. And you notice to upright, I didn't have to uncurve. I just hinged back the other way. We'll switch the legs. So my leg extends, my toes point up, keeping this bottom leg active. And then my bent leg, my knee comes out. Of course, that movement is coming from this joint. So opening up, externally rotating at this hip joint, resting on the outer edge of the foot. And that foot can be closer to your body or it can be further away. So you can experiment with what feels like the right place for your foot. You can stay right here, stay really upright. Or if you choose to lean, remember that you're hinging your whole upper body in one piece. You definitely don't want your head to start this movement. And if anything, you want your chin to be slightly tucked back so that the front of your chest can lead this movement and not far. A little bit of a lean. I can really feel my breath here as we're getting toward the end of our practice. This has been pretty active practice, mostly standing. All right, one more full breath in this pose. So full inhale, feel that in your body. Full release of the breath on the exhale. And then come back to upright. So that is it for our bone strengthening practice today. And just to recap, I said we were doing 6 poses. We did do 6 poses even though we did different variations. So we did chair pose, we did tree pose, we did triangle pose, downward dog, standing twist or a version of sage 3 pose, and then seated, that was a version of head to knee pose. So those are your 6 poses. I definitely encourage you, if you have osteopenia or thinking about preventing osteoporosis, to go out and read Dr. Fishman's book. I will link to it down here so you can learn more about it. If you like these practices from me, please do subscribe to my channel and comment. I would love to hear what you think, what you want to see more of, what you'd like me to do next. Thanks for joining me for this practice. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.